Hi, and welcome to COVID Convos with Maddie Carver. I'm Maddie Carver, and today I have with me Erike DeVeyra, AIA, Seed, and a fixture in Philadelphia's design community. Erike has been integral in signature events around the city like Design Philadelphia, Parking Day, and numerous design outreach initiatives meant to engage kids and inspire a love of creativity. Welcome, Erike. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for being here. I know you're a mom of two and two little ones, 2 and almost 6, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and you're doing some homeschooling and tell us a little bit about that.
I've been calling it school, not school. When my kindergartner started school instruction, she was like, I want to go back to mama's school. I'm like, great. So
Great.
I've been a homemade photocopy machine, sketching things like twice with my big Sharpie.
Well,
for like more than 2 copies, I think I'd get that.
Well, I think, we're all kind of winging it with the homeschooling thing. So I have to give you a lot of props for that. I actually personally don't have kids, and I keep telling my husband I don't know what the two of us would do because I don't know. I wasn't able to really get through school that easily myself, so I don't know how I would teach other little kids. So I gotta give you props. So Erike, you have been, someone that has been such an integral part of the design community and so many different events that have taken place that have been so important to the city. Tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me where you grew up and what made you pursue a career in architecture.
That has always been the hardest question sometimes. My family currently lives in Texas, so I actually had middle school and high school with my more recent residence before moving here. I've actually lived in Philly for the longest time, so I feel like I now have to say I'm from Philly.
Sure.
But I grew up in between Australia, the Philippines, Texas, and then here. And the reason why I came here was actually for architecture. I was very interested in tech theater, so I loved set design, and really that was kind of my motivation. There was this one book during my senior year, and my tech director was flipping through this book of sets, and there was one set that was kind of made out of branches that was just gravitating off of the ground, and he was like, an architect designed that. I was like, oh, so that's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna go be an architect. So set design was actually my one true goal, and after more schooling, I was like, oh, become a professional, get licensed. So sometimes I joke that architecture was actually my second goal in life.
You just kind of fell into it, huh?
Right. It was, architecture was my backdrop, my go-to if set design didn't work, but I kind of just went down this path and was involved also in the drama club in college, and just kind of went down this path. And part of my schooling, it was very important to me that friends of mine that weren't in design understood what I was doing. I had a physician assistant friend, I was working on a row house, it was a row house project, and I was like, do you understand how you were flowing from this space and going into here? And he was like, oh yeah, and how you explained it. And so I think that's what I've taken with me since pursuing my career post-college. I graduated right after the recession, so I was very worried what was going to happen as far as
Sure.
my career. So I was actually working for the federal government, and I did a lot of renovation and alteration work. So I did a lot of project management that way. And because of that, I met my next boss, my first architecture boss. I did Parking Day. I called up a few friends of mine. I was like, hey, we haven't designed anything, we haven't built anything. Do you want to do Parking Day? Let's go take a day off and let's go do it. And so that's been something that's been very important to me, is that how do I, as an architecture professional, able to communicate to people who have no background in design and be able to communicate it well and for them to easily understand it.
So is that kind of where Parking Day, that's kind of where the impetus for that kind of came from?
That's where I came into it. It was founded in Philadelphia in 2000. 2008, so it was definitely kind of before me. My first parking day was 2011, and my former boss from Zimmerman Studio Architects, I met her at parking day, and I started working for her, and it was just something that she felt was important. And then ever since then, after working for her, I just continued that baton and helped share that with other people.
And you really took it and ran with it, because it became kind of a whole different animal when you took over, Eric, and infused your energy into it. So it's exciting to talk to you about that. Tell me a little bit more about Design Philadelphia, because that was one of your big initiatives as your time as the community outreach and program manager at the Center for Architecture and Design. Tell us more about that initiative.
Yeah, actually kind of leading up to that was, like I mentioned, it was the recession and I was working for the government. And so I felt it was important for me to still be connected with the architecture and design community. So I actually started as a volunteer at the Center for Architecture and Design. And from then on, volunteered at a lot of committees, and then got on the board, on the AI Philadelphia board, and then the center board, and was always kind of participating in Design Philadelphia in some capacity. Me and a colleague and a friend of mine, we started Fast Forward Philly, which is one of Philadelphia Emerging Architects events that they do during Design Philly, and we have been doing that for almost 5-6 years together. And then the opportunity arose to help manage Design Philadelphia. And again, I remember a few years back thinking about Design Philadelphia. I was like, wow, I would love to be in that position, to be able to spread the word of design and how important it is beyond just the design community, but really like the non-design community, and how essential it is and how important it is. So I think part of my time there was really just trying to figure out, okay, we know we can celebrate as a community. We understand each other, the graphic designers, the fashion designers, industrial designers, textile designers, and architects and interior designers. But what about the people who actually hire those people?
Right.
They need
right.
We want to make sure that, I'm not saying that our clients need to be full-fledged and knowledgeable, but I think they need to get a little bit of an understanding of like the process that we go through. Like, we went to school for all of this, and when some people think it's like, oh, it's just color. It's like, no, there's a whole history about color, the psychology behind color. When I do my mom's school with my kids, I'm introducing, something, and so I was looking forward to using Design Philadelphia as that platform, just like in a bigger platform, to be able to inform the community.
And make it maybe more accessible to the community and to the city, because I've been very open about the fact that I'm new to this industry. I've been in the industry for about a year, and I have a theater degree. I have an BFA in acting from a little liberal arts school in New York City. And this just seems like it's been such an easy transition for me with like the creative people and the creative types. I really gravitate towards those folks. But there is, like you said, a lot of moving parts and a lot of math, and a lot of different aspects of the industry that feel especially architecture. I mean, that seems very kind of a faraway concept that maybe isn't so attainable to someone like me. And I've always been really in awe of Design Philadelphia and how it makes that those kind of ideas and those different processes seem attainable and interesting and fun and colorful. So, that makes me really happy to be able to talk to you about how that kind of came about and your interest in it.
Absolutely. It was about, I think it was 6 years ago, around the 10-year celebration of Design Philadelphia. I was on the Design Philadelphia steering committee, and it had been a conversation even since then about where do we go and where do we place ourselves so as many people as possible can see this. And so last year when we were at Cherry Street Pier, it was like we finally got to that point where there were people, thousands of people coming through Cherry Street Pier, which was definitely also a little bit of a merit of parking day, because, parking day is about public space. We were at Cherry Street Pier, and then you had Design Philadelphia. It was just like, it was like everything that I feel like I've been working towards. And so to see thousands of people going through there, getting a little bit of a taste of what kind of talent that exists here, because I think also sometimes people forget that, you know, design's not just in New York or LA or Chicago, but, you know, you have almost 6 design schools here in Philadelphia alone. And so there's this pool of people and a pool of such talent that, you know, to have like sometimes like, you know, those 10 days of the festival, you know, wasn't enough, but at least, you know, it sparked people's interest. It was a little bit of that inspiration to be like, oh, my next door neighbor could be a designer and I didn't know, you know, so that was always, you know, the greatest part about that celebration, and for me was really, you know, the biggest design problem that I had to solve. So
well, I love that. I love that, Eric. Now, you know, I know you don't have a magic wand or a crystal ball or anything like that, even though I'm sure your kids think you do. But, you know, I'm wondering what's next in light of what's happening. You know, where do you see an event like that going, and what can we do, and how can we keep the spirit of that going? And, you know, maybe, you know, I know it's definitely not happening this year. But will it happen next year? And if it doesn't, you know, what do you think are some maybe ideas, or what can we do?
Well, right now, I know there's definitely been talk about making it a virtual festival. So really trying to tap into some of the technology that we're surrounded by. You know, is it an exhibition that you can walk through? You know, is it, you know, keynotes like this where we're all on Zoom and being able to ask questions. I know that's what the team is looking at, and they've been scouring kind of like the community for any more ideas and some of people's expertise really about this. It's definitely been quite the privilege and opportunity to see how some of our smaller businesses and designers have been pivoting during this time and really trying to engage, even though we can't be close to each other, but still create that sense of community. And I think that's the most important piece, is that people find, you know, whether it's a new technology, a new processes, a new way to think of things, and kind of bring people together to kind of bring those ideas. You know, before this, I feel like there were even people who were relatively technology savvy who were like, what's Zoom? What do you mean I can share this? And, you know, even in this, you know, technology alone, you're trying to figure that out. But I think it's still really a matter of trying to create a sense of community. And even if that means virtual and Zoom meetings, I mean, I meet with friends every week. We have our dinner check-in on Fridays. We've been testing out karaoke. We've been testing out, you know, game night. We've been testing out, you know, board games. So, you know, it can be a slew of things. And I think it's a time for people to just think of, okay, what's important to me when it comes to creating a sense of community? If I can't touch, as long as I can see, as long as I can contribute, I think that's what it is. And if it's about still showcasing work and how that's new and inventive and how it's actually really applicable to today's time, I think this really was a time for a lot of people to kind of just sit back a little bit and think about, okay, I need to find a different approach. I mean, I was even reading an article the other day about, okay, now that we can't have concerts and large music festivals, what are musicians doing in order to release their music? So, you know, I think what will happen is that it'll, you know, instead of those 10 days, design will now be celebrated, you know, more intermittently throughout the year.
So there's, you know, again, all my silver linings through all of this. And I think that this is one of them, is that, you know, it's not maybe just going to be at a certain time. It'll be all year long. And there is such an incredible sense of community that has come out of all of this. Which is really inspiring, and also, you know, definitely a crash course in technology, which, you know, this lady definitely needed. So, Eric, I know that one of the big initiatives for Design Philadelphia was kind of your outreach to kids, and some of the programs that you helped to coordinate were meant to engage children in their love of design and creativity. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and also kind of like the importance of that, and, you know, especially in times like these?
For sure during Design Philadelphia when I came up with Kids Fest. It was also partially from a visit to New York, and at that point I had a 4-year-old. And I remember it's like, okay, how do we engage children? They're sponges. So when I went to go check out, what was supposed to be kind of like this kids celebration, kids design demo, I was slightly disappointed when I went to New York, and I said to myself, like, we can do this better in Philadelphia. So that's how that got initiated. Then part of my time with the center was we did family workshops, and I find that it's really important to expose to them, one, it's a potential, future. When I would describe to kids, what design is, because sometimes I feel like there's this essence of like, oh, it's kind of like more than being an art, but not, and people didn't, it was a little ambiguous. I would just say it's being a problem solver and creating things to solve it. Whether it's architecture, whether it's interior design, fashion design, textile design, it's the whole gamut. Like, I remember when high school students would come into the center and I would say, look at the logo on your shirt or the headphones that you're wearing. A whole team designed that, and you could just see their minds like, what? That's design? I think sometimes it gets a little bit, discombobulated with like engineering and numbers and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but there's someone who's trying to understand how you should feel, understand like how prevent you from doing things, wanting you to see certain things that maybe you wouldn't have seen. So for me, I think it's by sharing that design really is a problem-solving skill, that it's a problem-solving profession, I think changes up the game. The fact that, when it comes to graphic design, for example, I mean, you can see behind me, like, that's font. And, in one aspect, you're like, oh, it's artwork, putting it up. I'm like, no, but if this was a different font, you may not be able to read it and understand what that means.
Or it may not make you feel the same way.
Right.
It really conjures up feelings. A certain look makes you feel a certain way, or it intrigues some sort of sense memory.
Yeah, like I remember when the Oscars happened and everyone was just like blown away when they called out the wrong winner. All the graphic designers were like, here, this is how you actually should have created your envelope and announcement. And I think too, with kids, you can, what I always enjoyed was growing. It was a cumulative process where we would talk about colors and patterns. Before I talked about facades, but you can easily talk about how the windows relate to each other at City Hall, or how the trees, when you're walking down the sidewalk, why you're not going out into the road, what are those little things that are keeping you in a straight line. So I think they're very observant, and I think to kind of help them give some tools to talk about it and to recognize it was always kind of part of the goal. I mean, they may never become designers, but if they grow up to know a little bit about that, when it comes time to interact with a designer or hire a designer, they understand a little bit that they're there to help. They're experts, and so let them do what they do best.
Well, that's extremely inspiring, and I'm one that I grew up with the arts in my life, and it really touched me. And in any way, I mean, I think it's so important. So I love the emphasis on kids. And speaking of your kids, is there any music that you guys are listening to? Is there a song that you guys can suggest for my quarantine playlist?
So like I mentioned, we've been testing out karaoke, but also at every meal, depending on what kind of cuisine, we change up the playlist. But the biggest one I feel like right now, I would suggest a Dance Monkey by Tones and I. It's a really good, like, take a quick dance break.
Oh, okay. I like it.
I would go into that.
Dance Monkey. All right. Yeah, Heard it here.
So yeah, it's a good one for like, okay, time for a dance break. Let's get up and move. So
I like it. I like it. I love it. Well, Erike, it is always great to see you. It is always so wonderful to talk to you. You're so full of energy. I really could use that today. And I'm sure everyone is going to love to see your smiling face and hear all the fabulous wonderful and educational things that you had to say. And, I'm just really happy that you were able to join me. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Well, Eric, you take care, and hopefully someday I'll see you on the other side.